Yeah, my business, Broadbean Technology, is an online advert distribution company. So we take job adverts from recruitment companies and put them onto the web. And we also track the response of candidates to let clients know if they're getting good return on investment for their online spend. Now, I didn't actually have the idea for the company. I bought into the business in 2002 when we were, I think we were the only .com in the world at the time with no website. With no customers, no revenue, just a small bit of technology. So I sort of saw this opportunity and decided to invest. When I was growing up, I loved Branson, and actually Branson's was the first book that I read, and his autobiography, which I thought was brilliant, and I read that a couple of times when I was, particularly when we were first going into business. So I kind of always loved him, although I think it's really easy to admire people that have made a lot of money and become very successful, because it always looks really easy. And I think if you ask most people who their entrepreneurial hero is, it would be someone like Richard Branson, Donald Trump. So I actually admire an awful lot of entrepreneurs, and I really like people that have taken a risk. Anyone that's gone and taken a risk and put themselves on the line, put their financial security on the line and taken a chance, massive admiration for. Yeah, when I bought into the business, I mean, the deal was when I first bought into the business that I'd work for free until the business could afford to pay me. So that was actually how I bought into it. I was 21, I had a background in recruitment, been doing it 3 or 4 years, so I'd spent any money that I was going to earn well before I got it. So when I first got involved, and I originally joined the business in October 2002 as a salesman, and worked a couple of months, the guy had set it up, said, look, it's not really working. We weren't really planning to do this, so we're going to shut the business down. And at that point, I'd realised just from a couple of months being on the phone to people that although it was going to take a lot of work, there was a business there. And so I pleaded with Kel, who's my business partner, to not shut it down, and he just said, put your money where your mouth is. Obviously I didn't have any money, so he offered me a slightly separate deal where I'd get shares for working for free. But it meant I had to work until the business could afford to pay me. My biggest challenge, looking back, was probably the first 2 years. When we, Kelly and Brad, who are my 2 partners in Broadbean, put their houses against their houses against the loan for the business. And so I'd kind of gone in, I was paying my loan out of my loan. So my loan payments were coming out of my loan and all my living expenses. And it's just amazing how quick a loan, sum in the bank goes down if there's nothing going back in to replenish it. Persuaded Kelly and Brad to kind of keep going with it. And we had to run a business on a 35 grand overdraft. And that was it, and that was the extent of the funding. And at the time that we put it from 15 to 35, we were already maxed at 15. So we had that kind of window, and that meant we had to pay the technical person who built the system, pay his salary, and the other running costs of the business. So although at the time I didn't really I was just having so much fun, I didn't sit there and think, what if this doesn't work? There was no plan B. So now looking back and seeing kind of what we did, what we achieved in those 2 years, I think actually that was a hell of a challenge, and it's only with hindsight you can really appreciate that, I think. But now, this market we're in now, we're well placed, but I think this is going to be, this has been the biggest challenge I've realised that I'm experiencing. We've got 60 employees now, so there's a lot more to think about rather than just, can we make it to the end of the month? When we first achieved £1 million turnover, we threw a party, and there was about 15 of us in the company at the time, and I remember just having this party, and everyone got hammered and went nuts, and it was only when everyone sort of calmed down at about 1 o'clock in the morning, we realised what we'd done. We'd actually, got to £1 million turnover. And I think it was about the 9th or 10th month of the year. That was just an incredible moment. Before that, I remember getting a purchase order through from a company for an amount that was going to clear our overdraft. With this, our overdraft at the time was about 33,500, and we did a deal for 33,600. So we had 100 quid in the bank, and that was a fantastic moment. And then I won Young Entrepreneur of the Year. That in itself was a particular one moment. Hearing your name read out, that was incredible. And I suppose top it all, selling the company, getting to that point where you've done it, someone wants to buy it, someone wants to pay you money for what you've built up is also good. So it's been some fantastic moments. I don't know if I could pick between them all. I think probably if I had to really pick, probably getting that purchase order that cleared the overdraft, that would be the one. There's a guy called Mike Southern who's a beer mat entrepreneur, and first time I saw him, he was speaking at a conference, and I remember him doing this pretty crap impression of a Scotsman who'd given him the advice, which was I'm not going to do the Scottish accents, I can't do them like Mike, can't either, was Watch the Cash. And that was probably the first year of Broadbean. Mike and I have become good friends since, and even now it's something that he reinforces in everything that he does. He's speaking in his columns and everything. We hired an FD about 3-4 years ago, 1 day a month, and it totally revolutionised our business. We totally changed the way in which we planned. It was all based around the numbers rather than what we thought was a good idea at the time. He now works for us full time, and I could not get by without having an FD. And so watching the cash, making sure, particularly as we get to a time like this, I think it becomes more apparent than ever that watching the cash is absolutely vital. A lot of companies will go out and they'll spend money, and it seems like the boom times are going to last forever, and they're not prepared for when it gets tough. And that's why a lot of companies now are going out of business. It didn't just suddenly go wrong overnight. It went wrong years ago, most probably in some of these big companies that didn't watch the cash. So watch the cash, get an FD as soon as you can afford one, even if it's 1 day a month. We were inquired middle of October by Daily Mail and General Trust. The AND, which is the digital division of Daily Mail Group, acquired us. So they own a number of recruitment websites, property websites, Find a Property, motors, dating, and then there's us. We don't really fit necessarily into any of those particular areas, but we're the software part. Since they've acquired us, I mean, it's been about 4 months in now, so there's been no change. And one of the things that was really important to me, if the business was going to be acquired, was that we retained operational control, that we still had to make decisions, and we were very clear about that during the process. But that's exactly what they wanted. What A&D are really good at is buying businesses and with the entrepreneurs. So the entrepreneurs who set the company up stay with the firm. And so for them, they can buy a business and they can leave the people that know what they're doing to run it, and they build their portfolio that way. They've got no interest in coming in and meddling with the business. And so it's been great. They kind of just left us to it. I think I've only seen them once or twice. The position the business was in meant we were relatively okay. We, over the last couple of years, have been expanding internationally. We'd already opened our Dutch office. Our US office, which opens next month, was already well planned. We had been investing a lot of money in technology, in creating new products. So the recession didn't come at a bad time for us particularly. I mean, it's never a good time for a recession, but we already had a lot of the foundations for getting through a recession in place. So we had good cash in the bank, we had new products coming out. So even though we're a little bit down in terms of revenue where we'd like to be right now, we're pretty confident about making that later when the new products come out, and when the new, particularly when the States kicks in, revenue, start seeing revenue from that. Plus we were required, in October, just as we were sort of really seeing how bad the market was getting, which was not a bad time either. Yes, I started, founded a social enterprise called the 2 Hour Initiative. And the idea behind it is that asking business people to give 2 hours of their time once a quarter to help promote business in schools. And I got the idea from doing some work I did with Young Enterprise and various other organisations like that. And one of the biggest challenges they have is getting business people to go and speak at their programs. And the fantastic thing about business is that it has the opportunity to be something real. You can really see it. If a business person comes into a classroom and tells their story, then what they just learned about actually has real meaning. But it's not just another subject learned out of a textbook. But if you don't get a volunteering, then it is just another thing that you read about or that a teacher told you about. And I think that this country is very entrepreneurial as it is, but it could be so much better. There's so many entrepreneurs in this country. If everyone gave 2 hours a quarter, which I think everyone can afford that, then I think we can make a massive difference.